in kindergarten for 10 years, decided to quit teaching and go into the fitness industry full time. And I was so bad that I lost everything until I found CrossFit. And the owner of my CrossFit gym, my first coach, my first mentor, was a former drill instructor in the Navy. He gave me a certain level of discipline that I needed. At any point in time when I was coaching class, his large vehicle would pull up on the back of the gym. He'd get out. He'd pull up a chair. He'd sit down with a pen and paper and just watch me teach the whole class and take notes. And I'd look over at him and go, and I knew I was messing up consistently. It made me so nervous that I was actually worse when he was around. Until, guess what happened over the last 10 years that I was there? I got so good he could come and say and do whatever he wanted, and I was cool as a cucumber. That worked for me because I wasn't going to give up, because remember, I'm going to kill my first trainer? Nope. I'm in it for the long haul. Do you remember our consult? We talked on the phone, and one of the questions I asked was, how do you learn best? And how do you respond to feedback? So that when we're working together, I can enhance the learning and the pleasure or the fun of the experience and reduce the likelihood of me making you cry, because I've made people cry and I never wanted to do that. So as we reflect on this last exercise, 1, I want you to ask yourself how you learn best, and 2, how best you respond to feedback, and then 3, what could we do better in that small group drill to make you better at coaching. You can even write stuff down while you're thinking about it right now on this sheet of paper that we have up there. Go ahead and think about it, chew on that for a little bit, because the whole reason we're doing this in the summer right now is to troubleshoot it and to make this the best coaching development workshop it can be. That's why I send out these evaluations when I'm done, because now I'm getting some real feedback on those instead of just all A pluses. Alex, I love what's happening on that piece of paper. I love it. I love it. This is why I'm glad you're here. You have a way of thinking that benefits what we're doing right now. As a guy that doesn't coach and just is in it for the long haul as an athlete, I'm like, you know what? This is what I feel. And what you feel is your feelings. It's not wrong. I don't know who's more military, Andy, Thomas, or Zach.
Zach is very military.
Yeah. She was pointing at you. Hey, if he's Zach 3, who's he?
He's Zach 2.
Who's Zach 1? Oh, you know he got married? Yeah. He had a honeymoon in Tokyo. He was one of the first coaches I converted to my way of thinking. Instead of like, we don't need to go over skills and movements. We're all badasses. Do you remember that day I had him watch for runners in the street? He goes, we don't need to watch people on the road. So, all right, you're going to get a piece of paper and you're going to record how many of the athletes run in front of a car when they're doing running. He goes, all right, he comes back in. He goes, I can't believe how many people ran in front of cars. Yeah, that's why I had you out there. I'm going to call time on this exercise, and I want to open this up as a volunteer first before I pick on someone. Who would like to share with us their experience and what we did well and what we could do to improve that small group breakout? Anyone can jump in.
More time.
More than 10 minutes? Yeah! I love that. How long was your small group breakout, your level 2?
Long time.
Yeah. How much time do we have today?
Not very long.
2 hours. Yeah, but so how do we make it work in 10 minutes? But you're right, we could spend 8 hours on the strict press. You're right, more time would be beneficial. What else?
I was going to say, I have trouble not talking when I'm going to do things, so sometimes I start to mumble, jump out of my mouth as I'm demonstrating the movement, so maybe actually taking the time to like be like,
I do this.
do this.
Has anyone else struggled with that when they coach? Yeah. How do we get better at that?
By continuing to learn and do it.
On my drive into work, I'm going strict press. And then I visualize myself doing 2 or 3 without hitting cars because I'm driving. And I rehearse everything I'm going to say with every movement I'm teaching in that back room to my small group because I struggle with the same thing. I'm trying to enunciate clearly because normally I talk like this. Only my brother can understand me. It's not great. It's not great. Thomas, can I call on you?
We do have a question. We are not sure we understood your question. In that, the question was what works and doesn't work for us when we get feedback as a coach?
Yeah.
Or specific to that workshop or the workshop you're giving us?
All that stuff would be excellent data. I would take any of that right now.
So, what works for me? Comments or feedback that are straight to the point, honest, and tell me what does not work out or why I do not do good. Because what doesn't work for me, it's when you're telling me that I do a good job. It's expected. It's my job. That's why I'm here. So
you said this with how you respond best to feedback. Just give it to me. I want to know what it is and how to get better at it. My military and my most of my athletes are like that. Just give it to me straight, right? Yeah.
I don't like turning around the pot or telling me that was a good job. Well, yeah, that's why I'm having the job.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that. I hate compliments or the positive reinforcement in general. Again, I like when it's straight to the point. Tell me what did not work, and if that worked, well, it's just a tap on the shoulder and move on to the next one.
Anyone else before I call on my leaders?
Well, I was going to say Wayne does a really good job of that, and that's why he's one of my favorite coaches because he's very straight to the point and doesn't really say or just tells me what I'm doing wrong right off the bat.
He has less is more dialed in with what he's going to say before he says it. Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Michael did that all the time. I don't know if you guys ever knew him, but he was
He was super technical, right?
the best coaches I've ever had because he could just say one sentence and I was automatically better. But yeah.
When Meglo first started, he would teach a class and we would sit and watch it and he'd come over and hey, how do you think that went? And he goes, pretty good. I'm like, when did you start class? I don't know. You started 5 minutes late. What else? And so pretty good is meaningless. But he had the fastest curve of getting better. He and Landon both. They needed the least amount of coach development as they came in, as opposed to someone brand new that all right, we need to teach you everything. I miss Weglo. He was a good coach. My leaders, Cyril, Wayne, Zach. Number 2. How was leading that small group?
Good. Difficult.
So we know good's no good. Tell me about leading that small group.
I think one thing that you forget as a coach is the things you forget to remember when you're a newer coach, all the things that you're frantically looking around at. And I think once you develop your skills a little bit more, you become more calm. You're like, calm down, we're just looking for these couple of things. I know you have all this in your head, but let's just look for these couple of things really quick and simplify it versus trying to put all that jargon to word vomit.
Word vomit. You get to drink from?
The fire.
The fire hose! Seat up.
Yeah, just what Zach said. It's really, and we all struggle with this, including myself, but it's talking too much and not having the athletes move as much is a huge challenge. And I know that for newer coaches, one of my athletes I've been coaching since 2015. She came to my gym. She's 75 years old, and she's been to every gym I've coached at. She's followed me, and I asked her the other day. So Marilyn, you've seen me coach for 9 years, and pretty much when you started with me, I was like a brand new coach, and I never coached a class until the first class that I coached at my own box that I opened was the first class I ever coached. And she's like, and it was great to hear this because I didn't know. She said you used to talk a lot more about every movement and give every single permutation and point of performance and fault before the athletes ever did anything, and now you're more succinct and you don't do all of that. So that was good. So I think,
You mean you've gotten better?
I guess so.
What?
But it was good to hear that, but I know that younger coaches have a tendency of wanting to regurgitate every single point of performance for the athlete for one thing. And it's a huge challenge to learn that and to do it, and I even struggle with it every class I teach. But over time, you will realize that less is more, and getting the athletes to move faster, I don't mean quickly, I mean as opposed to regurgitating every point of performance is better than the other way.
I had a unique experience because the McFarlands aren't currently coaching for us, so they don't know our process. So we looked at the press for just a couple of reps each, and then we spent more time actually talking about how the sausage is made, just about like classes and how we go about setting up our classes and looking at people, because they don't really get to see the back end, and just understanding that when we're looking, it's not just looking at maybe just the ribs lifting up in a press, but it's like, how do you see that on 20 people? How do you break the group apart? And they were here last time when you kind of explained how we do the rows and columns and how you do the 20-foot, 5-foot, single-foot approach to coaching. So we talked more about that than the actual press itself.
Was that enlightening at all? Yeah?
My old gym capped their classes at 10 people, so I was like,
30 people?
here right now.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to hear.
It's also interesting because, like we mentioned, there's a difference between coaching an advanced athlete and coaching a new athlete. You have a class of 20 people, you have 3 of each, let's say.
Yeah.
How do you spend your time? If you need to coach the advanced athlete more because they have more things they need to work on, how do you not ignore the new athlete who maybe they're at high risk of getting injured doing a movement they haven't done before?
If you,
There's a question you bring up that way. And so we always ask this. Number one, preparation is key, right? If you think you can walk into a CrossFit gym, your own gym, anywhere else, with 5 minutes, look at the WOD and go, yeah, I can teach that, you're wrong, right? That's not true. Preparation has got to happen. You got to sit down. You got to look at all of it. Then when you get everybody laid out, when you've gone over the workout in your head, when you've actually prepared like a professional would do to coach that class, does the advanced athlete put their feet any place differently than the beginner? No. Do the same rules apply, the same points of performance apply to the advanced athlete and the beginner? Or are they different? They're the same, right? I mean, with minor nuances based on maybe body type, they're not going to be any different in their lift, and that's how you got to coach them. So if you're worried that you're going to spend too much time on an advanced athlete, just go back to the basics and look, are their feet where they're supposed to be if they're not putting them there? Beginner, put their feet in the right place.
has anyone seen that documentary on Simone Biles? It's so good, right? And she talks about how she says the exact same thing. When you start to get flustered, you just go back to the basics. You go from step 1. And this is coming from one of the greatest athletes in the world, in history, right? So if she says it, I think it's a fair game. We have 10 minutes because if you were in class, how long would you have to teach the strict press in a 60-minute class?
2 minutes.
Yeah. So 10 minutes is kind of what we have now. We'll get there's some learning going on with it as well. On the piece of paper you just put up, if you have space, great. If not, grab another. This is what I should have done before we broke out in a small group. Step 1, state the movement. So you're writing number 1, state the movement. Do you need another paper, Thomas? I can get you one real quick. Who else wants another sheet of paper? Another example of me not planning ahead. I did no planning for this thing. I just threw it all together at the last minute. Thomas, I got this for you.
Thank you. You asked us to use the Zoom paper to write things.
Who else needs another one? We good? Number 2, demo the movement silently 2 to 3 times. No talking during the demo, no talking. And we have to make sure your demo is so good that you set your athletes up for success. If you have a flaw in your demo, everyone's going to have that flaw, and you're going to, oh no, what did I do wrong? You were chewing on the PVC pipe. Spit that out. Number 3 is teach. So you're not moving at this point. You're saying, set your feet to hip width. You might be walking around. State in those starting positions. Now we want to have 1 coaching cue per rep. Once we teach it, we're going to have them execute some movements, right? So we're going to say a simple command. For the strict press, our command is just press. Although I did say brace and press, and brace might not be the best word because it's kind of jargony. In Ann Arbor, we can sometimes get away with jargony, but at other gyms I've gone to, that was not the case. We're going to have you each get a new piece of paper. We're going to write out the teaching progression for the push press. Actually, go ahead and just pass those down. The teaching progression for the push press before I lead a large group with it, and then you do your small group with it. And again, right now, what we're doing is taking the honor of coaching so seriously that we're putting some effort into getting better as a coach. I see you, Grace, saving paper. If you go to your L2, they say you don't have to use this teaching progression, but I would rather you know this thing inside and out before you go off on your own. So this is the teaching progression for the push press. Cyril, remember step 1?
Dip and hold.
Dip and hold. Step 1, dip and hold. Ross is writing like a gunslinger. Zach, number 2, do you remember step 2?
Dip and slow.
Slow, yes. Slow. Dip, stand. This is our first opportunity to have a dynamic opportunity to coach instead of static in the push press. Wayne, do you remember 3?
Dip and drive.
Yeah, this is basically fast dip drive. And there might be a different speed on your dip than to drive so that the bar doesn't come off the shoulders. And I think almost everyone here could get the 4th and final one. It's dip drive press, AKA the push press. What? It's funny how that worked out. Once you have that down, read each one in your head over again. And then put your marker on the floor against that wall and go back to your platform with your pipe and barbell. What's number 1? Yeah. I'm also going to state the movement before I demo it, right? Push press. Athletes, set your feet to hip width. Bring that bar up to the shoulders. Let's bring your feet closer together, Ross, if that feels okay. Athletes, dip and hold, shoulders over hips, just a shallow knee bend. Come up a little bit higher for me, Ross, and shoulders back slightly. Ooh, I like where these elbows are. And stand. And dip and hold. Last knee bend, give me shoulders back slightly. And you're going to give me this. Nice, and stand. Less knee bend on the next one. Dip and hold. Good. And stand. Athletes, embrace your inner sloth. This will be the slowest dip stand. Win the slow game for me, kids. And go. Slow dip stand. Ooh. Thomas is in the front row, but Zach number 2 was like going slower than Thomas on purpose. He's trying to win this. Can you get your elbows more forward? Is that okay? Yeah, right there. Slow dip stand, go. Yeah, better. There you go. I like that elbow position. One more. Slow dip stand. Try to bring your shoulders forward just a smidge for me. Yeah, and stand. Relax for me. Watch the timing on this. We would like the dip to be slightly slower than the drive. We want the drive to be as fast as possible. If you dip too quickly, sometimes the bar will leave your shoulders and crash down, and it robs you of power and sport performance, and your collarbones don't like it. Pipe back up. This is not the full dip drive press. This is just a fast dip drive. And go. Less knee bend, Ross, and faster. And go. Better. Less knee bend. And go. Aha! And go. Try to glue your heels down on this one. We're going to talk about that later. And go. I like the speed on that extension. And go. Kids, it's time to do the full push press. Don't get cocky now. Push press on my mark. And go. Reset. Set number 2, give me more drive. And go. Oh-ho! If he'd let go of that pipe, it would have gone into orbit. Reset. And go. Zach number 3, you're dipping a little fast and that bar is kind of staying in the same spot in space. Dip slower, drive faster. Reset. And go. There it is, there it is. Gently set that PVC pipe down where it's not going to mess with you. Cyril is doing this in the other room. Watch me, kids. I don't want to break your microphone here. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Alex, look at my feet, please. Take that take that barbell, put it in your best Frankenstein position. When you do your fast dip stand or dip drive, that bar should leave the shoulders. And go. And go. And go. Everyone, just stay where you are, but watch Grace. And watch how much height gets on this bar. There's without a doubt power coming from the legs, transitioning through the skeletal structure into that bar. Grace on my go. And go. Come on, kid, look at that. Everyone be like Grace. And go. Oh! Zach attacked the Legomaniac, taking it up a notch. And go. And slowly bring it into your elbow pits and slowly try to put it back onto those hooks. We're still in a large group, but before we move on, I want to take the opportunity to point out that I believe that Alex is a fire breather, and he's one of the athletes that I'm giving a bit more attention to because, one, I like him. He's a good kid.
I know, right?
Yeah. Additionally, this is the opportunity to talk about rooting through the heels, and I don't mind if the heels come up on a push press, but if I'm going in slow motion and I come to Friday Night Lights or look at any local fitness competition, this is happening. Look at my feet. Why do we not like this?
Lack of power.
Those are all correct. Those are all correct. Additionally, everyone come up on high on your toes as high as possible and hang out. Longer, higher, higher, longer, higher. Don't hold on to anything though. Go and relax for a second. You have excellent balance, but most people can't hold that for that long without tipping over. But guess what? With your feet flat, it's easier. This is called stability. When we write down the 10 general physical skills, we're going to talk about balance, how you control your center of gravity. If the heels come off the ground as a natural consequence or symptom of massive leg and hip extension, that's great. It is my opinion that most people don't do that. Most people rise the heels off the ground too early. So when I teach the push press, I say glue those heels down, show me and yourself that you can do it this way for 3 reps. If you never want to do it that way again, that's fine. But for 3 reps, we're going to see if you can do, watch my feet. Why don't we try 3 push presses with your PVC pipe or barbell? You can do PVC, Zach, that's fine. Let's err on the side of caution. And for these series of push presses, we're just asking that you keep the heels glued, rooted to the ground. You never have to do it again, but can you control your body well enough to be this coordinated? And go. Everyone can. That's all I need to see. Go and set it down. Right now, the time is 2:52. We'll be done with this next small group of push press at 3:02. You'll stay at the movement, you'll demo the movement, and you'll go through the teaching progression. Small groups in the same positions, same groups now. You can take a pipe with you,